plays Sammy Davis, and he does him really great.
Oh, really?
And he looks like him, and he fucking sounds exactly like him.
I think we need to move beyond being offended by blackface, folks.
Yeah. Well,
that's why I voted for Trump.
Yeah. It's gonna. Did you see there was like I don't know if it was real or not, but people were tweeting a screen cap from like a White House email today that said that Trump declares April National Sexual Assault Awareness.gov. There's no mention of it, so I'm thinking it's a hoax, and I'm thinking like how fucking funny would it be if Sean Spicer has to clarify and say, no, it's not Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Why is that guy like that? The way he fucking delivers a line.
Yeah.
Because I saw what's her name doing the impression of him first. McCarthy.
Yeah.
And then when I saw him, like, oh my god.
I think because every time he goes out before the press, he's literally been yelled at for 40 minutes by the president of the United States.
Yeah.
He's all pinchy faced and angry. Like, you said that.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like he's just been crying a lot of the time.
Well, he was the Easter Bunny in the Bush 2.
That.
Yeah. He was the official Easter Bunny of the White House. That was his last White House job. Was he would dress up like the Easter Bunny.
That's all he did was that. Nothing else.
I don't think he wasn't involved in that administration beyond that. I'm not checking that at all, but that's what I choose to interpret from those pictures.
It does seem like how an Easter Bunny would be to me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they send him out in the Easter Bunny costume to explain that it is officially not Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And Donald Trump can't stress enough that you shouldn't be aware of sexual assault.
Shouldn't every month be that?
Yeah.
I got in a big argument. I went to Mexico with some friends a few weeks ago for a bachelor party. I got in a big argument with my friend about came on her like a bitch.
What's came on her like a bitch?
So, the grab her by the pussy recording?
Right.
So, grab her by the pussy became like the...
summer jam.
That was the pull quote, That was the hit, right?
Yeah.
But I thought that he said, I came on her like a bitch. Like, he, approached her. So I got a big argument.
Came on to her.
I came on to her like a bitch, right?
That doesn't make any
It doesn't make any sense. So I got in an argument with my friend where... clearly to me he's saying like she's a bitch, right?
Yeah.
But my friend was of the opinion that he was calling himself a bitch, which
he doesn't really think that.
It's also,
why would he ever call himself a bitch?
I've made the point on the show before, but I really like if you listen to that whole tape, it sounds like Trump has no fucking idea what he's talking about.
No, it
and
sounds
he's
like
trying to sound cool.
It sounds like
it sounds like the 40-year-old virgin.
I was about to bags of sand.
Yeah,
exactly.
It sounds like he's never had sex before.
Well, I can't imagine a situation where he hasn't every situation where he fucks a woman. I imagine it like a debutante ball, where he comes down the stairs with his penis out, and then the woman that they've sex trafficked.
He curtsies.
Right? Yeah, basically.
It's like I thought, he doesn't even know what sex is. Like he's just been fucking their navel this whole time.
Yeah.
He has no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course, yeah. No one would tell him that he's not doing it the wrong way.
Yeah,
of course.
Then you rub butts.
Yeah. I came, she came, everybody came.
It was terrific.
Yeah.
I rub butts with beautiful women every day.
Yeah. He's like those women that like I didn't have an orgasm until I was 35 years old. He's gonna have like an awakening. Where he
I got a shiatsu massage and I had an orgasm. I thought I was just peeing the whole time.
Yeah. You remember? I didn't realize until adulthood, but like, this might be. I don't know. This is probably you might be just too old for this, but Brookstone always had a rule, like Brookstone in the mall, where like you couldn't be. Adam, you know about this? You couldn't be under 18 and
use the massage
chair.
Why?
Because they say, it'll stunt your growth. But everything that they say, it'll stunt your growth, it just means like a child might accidentally come.
How could it stunt your growth?
It's impossible.
Yeah.
But that's what they would tell you. They didn't want kids sitting in the massage chair because it might make them come.
It would?
Maybe.
But okay, kids don't really come, do they? You gotta be pubescent.
No.
Did you used to jerk off before you could come?
I started jacking off when I was like 9.
Yeah, I started.
You did?
Yeah, I started jerking off before I could come.
And you came or
no?
You just
it's you, but you have a way more intense orgasm.
Yeah.
Than
there's actually a completion.
Than actually coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then
this is what Milo was talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I never even occurred to me to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was a late bloomer, so a lot of my friends were were blasting.
on your face.
Not on my face.
Yeah,
but-
You
to
blew
prove to
then,
you
didn't
how.
you?
Yeah, right.
And I was determined.
Now
to
let's
blast.
get the late bloomer. Let's show him what a fucking underdeveloped flower he is.
Oh God, yeah. Tell me about it. Your boy's about to be 30 this weekend.
When I was in junior high, my friend told this retarded kid that if you have hair on around your dick, it means you have leprosy and you're gonna die. And,
Oh, wow.
And the retarded kid was like, "No, it doesn't." You know, he's like, "It's normal. It's not a problem." And he was just bullying this retarded kid for having pubes.
Who was doing this?
This kid I knew.
Oh, I thought it was one of your UCB characters. That you,
Oh yeah.
I'm the guy that bullies retarded kid about pubes. This is my SNL video.
Yeah. There hasn't been a rape controversy in a while. I don't think.
Well,
Like
give it
someone-
time.
Yeah.
Well, there was Jamie Kilstein.
Oh right, the Kilstein thing.
And then next one's Matt McGorry. You know, it's any day now that his victims are going to crawl out of the shadows.
Yeah. That
Who the
makes
fuck
sense.
is Matt McGorry?
Matt McGorry is an actor.
From Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's like determined to become the
Oh, the
biggest,
most woke guy.
most
Yeah.
woke.
Well, he
Good
tweets.
guy.
He tweets weird shit. Like, didn't he have that one where he's reading that like feminist book and he's like, "I'm gonna jack off to this" or something? He was
Did
like,
he say that?
No, but he was like intimating that he was like that there was a sexual element. I mean, he gets pretty fucking close to being like, it's hot when women are feminists.
Oh,
I barely pay attention.
he's
to him,
done some unspeakable things. Let's be honest.
But yeah.
It's only a matter of time. No, the thing that I remember is that him and his dad got matching female reproductive system tattoos on their arms.
Because he makes more money than his dad and he controls his life.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so.
You knew who has a sweet life? Justin Bieber's dad.
Justin Bieber's dad rules.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I wish he was my dad.
Yeah, he rules. He's just trying to hang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a fun dad.
he's
Yeah.
like sort of Canadian white trash. He's like a Monster Energy kind of dude.
That should have been
Yeah.
that should have
Yeah.
been a plot on Trailer Park Boys. Ricky should have had a son that
That was a
became like an
virtuoso.
like an internet sensation, and then Usher gave him a career.
Oh, dude, I'm looking at this thing of Matt McGorry talking about the power dynamics of his on-screen relationship.
Oh no.
I think that was not cool, dude. He's talking about he's like scolding his character
Oh,
for having an affair. But like, can you just watch a show? You fucking.
Yeah, I love that people. Did you see this controversy with the Thinx underwear company?
no.
Oh yeah, it's like they marketed themselves as like a feminine make you smarter. I don't know.
Explain this to me again. I'm sorry.
It was this company is like under a lot of fire. There's like it's this underwear company called Thinx, and they have like a female CEO, and they branded themselves as like a feminist company, and they made underwear that you could just have your period directly into, which I guess has some application for like people that can't get access to tampons or whatever, or like maybe.
Oh, I heard of people using fucking diva cups and shit.
Yeah, that's another option. I mean, I guess if you're like prone to like. You can get like toxoplasmosis and shit from tampons. So it is like cool that they invented something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them things where I'm like, I don't have an opinion about your fucking, other than put a towel down, I got no opinions.
Well, I mean, I take it from the, like, if I 3 nights out of the week, I go to bed without brushing my teeth. You know, I shave my face once a week.
Right.
If I had to deal with like blood leaking out of my dick once a month, that would be.
Wait,
like,
you don't?
No, then it would be like that. I would be annoyed that I had to do anything about it.
But this is the thing, because there's so many. But I have, and I will say, I heard a million dudes say this before. Like, I only care to come and talk about a period. That fucking
like female
shit.
comics.
Yeah. So I mean, I know there's somebody who's like, but it's like I don't care. It's like I hate when somebody's bravely. That's right, a diva cup. Literally a cunt cup. Yeah, is what they mean by that.
Well, my problem isn't with the underwear. I mean, I don't give a shit about the underwear.
What was the controversy with the underwear?
The controversy is that the female CEO was like sexually harassing her subordinates and like telling them
like
to look
men?
sexy. yeah.
Or women?
Yeah, and she was just this like Don Draper piece of shit, and like giving people like 2 weeks for maternity leave. And fucking like, just a scumbag like any other CEO there
Piece
could
of
possibly
shit,
be.
Yeah. Any company that has any initiative or anything political is always repulsive.
Yeah.
Well, like there's no need to take a stand. You're a goddamn corporation. You got nothing to do with this.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's why corporations should just be evil, like Monsanto. That's why
Monsanto's
wasn't it you that told me that the Hells Angels are really into eating girls out while they have periods?
Well,
class.
They're into eating all kinds of pussy. Have you ever seen the chart of like different wings you can get?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, the green wings,
the crimson
black
wings.
Yeah, well, the crimson wings is for eating a girl out when she's on her period.
Yeah.
Yellow wings, most of them are race based. There's
what's green?
It's that one is if she has like an infection. I might be fucking it up, but there's a green one and there's a purple one, and one of them is like if she's dead, which is that's pretty intense.
To eat a girl's pussy,
what is the point of it?
How did you know that it's if she's dead?
I saw a chart one time with all of them on there.
Where?
On the internet. At when I was using the computer at the Hells Angels motorcycle club.
I was in the East Village. I was in the East Village a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
By Patty Moe's show, and I was walking down the street, and some fucking Hells Angel guy comes out of like, I guess they have a clubhouse down there.
Oh yeah,
yes they do.
Yeah, you haven't seen it?
And he like comes out and he like is like, "You fucking spit here, bro?" And I was like, "I didn't fucking spit." I was like on the phone. He's like, "I'll fucking kick your ass if I find out you were spitting."
What?
So I was just like, all right.
He's from the Singapore chapter of the Hells Angels.
Yeah, I guess so. He would have came.
Are you fucking blaspheming out here?
Did you use the Lord's name in vain, bro?
Dude, I had like woke Singaporeans.
Was there like spit somewhere visible that?
Maybe he saw someone on some sort of security camera spit. I didn't fucking spit.
Oh, maybe you were outside the club.
I was outside the club on the phone. Like,
so you were in front of their motorcycle.
I was in front of their motorcycle club.
Yeah.
And he thought I was spitting.
Oh.
And I was like, this is still a thing.
Well, I'm kind of upset you didn't get beat up by bikers.
It would have been cool if I got beat up by bikers.
I have a getting beat up by bikers story that happened to me.
The Sugar Ray
What kind
thing?
of bikers?
Yeah.
I don't know, like not Hells Angels, so lower tier bikers.
They were law-abiding 99%ers.
Yeah, right. Outside of like beating people up outside of comedy shows.
Why they beat you up?
Because I was making fun of Sugar Ray, the band Sugar Ray.
Well, okay.
Mark McGrath.
Elaborate on that.
I was saying, like, me and my friend were making fun of Sugar Ray. One of the bikers comes over. He's like, "Oh, Sugar Ray is actually badass, dude." Like Mark McGrath, that dude's a fucking badass. And I'm like, "No, he's not." you know? And he goes, well, I saw a video where someone said Sugar gay, and then he like threatened to kill the guy. And I'm like, yeah, that makes him like a fucking insecure piece
but
of
also,
shit.
Mark McGrath, I've heard him talk about Sugar Ray. He's like, yeah, it's a piece of shit. Like,
Does he say that?
yeah, he's like, I didn't want to have a job. Fuck this. You know, he doesn't like any of the music.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool then.
And he became an
Self-aware.
entertainment reporter. Mark McGrath from the E! Channel?
Is he
He's
on
a
the E!
badass.
Channel?
Yeah, he's like a fucking Entertainment Tonight kind of guy.
It'd be great if I was talking shit on the E! Channel, and that's what set off the bikers.
Dude, you don't like fucking Vanderplump?
Bravo! Pretty badass channel.
Yo, dude, say that again about the Lifetime movie channel.
Gigi Hadid would fuck you up, yo. It's so
The
weird.
best part is you did a set after you
I did.
got beat up by the
Blood
guy.
coming out of my mouth. I went in and did a fun after.
So you actually did get your ass kicked by Mark. Mark McGrath and his fans sound badass right now.
Yeah, that sounds badass, dude.
Okay, all right, fair point. Yeah, the whole time now, bitch.
With a halo on me,
Yeah.
4 point bed. They were singing that while they'll kick you.
Yeah, I got catcalled the other night by
By
some
Los
by
Angeles.
some hoodlum.
By like a thug hood?
Yeah, some thug hood guy.
By
Yeah,
gangster,
Yeah.
gangster fag from Rogan.
no,
Homo thug.
Oh, yeah, but he was called Gangster Fag. He's a rapper.
Where was he from?
Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, and Joe Rogan got the tape, and they were playing it on. There's YouTube of Patrice listening to it with him. But Patrice is cracking up because it's like it's hitting Midwesterners in their deepest fears. Like he's gay and he's fucking gangster. Like,
yeah.
Is your son home? Like, is he-
Well, that's kind of the final level of masculinity. I mean, that's why that shit's so prevalent
It's
in
just
jail.
being gay. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Is to be a prison rapist. I
There's
mean, you know,
nothing more masculine than just butt sex.
Yeah,
well, not that. It's that you like. Well, fine. You're a pussy now.
yeah,
Oh, I need pussy. Well, I guess you're gonna have to be pussy.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not getting pussy.
That's pretty much what it is. I found
Right.
this YouTube video a couple of years ago, and the guy deleted it since. I showed it to Cubis back when we were living together, and I forget how I found it, but it's this like kind of like heavyset black dude, and he's like doing a vlog, and he's like, I just got out of jail. I was in jail for the last 8 months or whatever in county. He's like, this is a story, this is a jail story. I don't know if it was real or not, but it's made it sound pretty fucking convincing. And he's like, yeah, and so I was, I was in county lockup, and then this white boy came in, and he was kind of pretty or whatever. So I caught him in the shower one day, and I reached around, I grabbed his penis, and it was cute. He had like a cute penis or whatever, and he didn't really feel comfortable with that. But maybe about a week later, I saw him sleeping on his bunk, but he was sleeping on his side. So what we do, I got a razor blade, and I slit down the back of his boxes so you can peek at the booty hole. And I would just take peeks at it while he was sleeping. And then 2 weeks later, I raped him. And
Wow.
Yeah. And he goes, and that guy, well, his name was Tom Henderson. That's right. I raped this white boy Tom Henderson in jail, and he's like just telling this story on YouTube.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it got deleted or something, but it was fucking
His
Wow.
name was
Yeah.
Tom
yeah.
Henderson.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Shit,
God
man.
damn.
Yeah, I
It's so
know.
weird when he says you have a cute little penis.
Yeah.
That's a little extra.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, it feels a little
Well,
cute
imagine
little
getting
penis.
out of jail to find out you're a YouTube star. YouTube star Tom.
Tom, wow. That's fucking the nonchalant thing. I saw one like that where it was a guy. It was like a white guy was in the Crips.
Mm-hmm.
And these other two black guys were Crips. And like, well, whatever, he's a Crip, so we accepted him. But then, like, I don't know where the white guy was from, what shitty M&M part of, the Midwest. But he drew something satanic on the wall or something idiotic, and then they couldn't watch basketball the whole level because this guy's fucking satanic drawing.
Yeah.
So they're all mad, and these guys knew this dude had put the shit up. So he was like, "You gotta let us fuck you." Because they didn't like him the whole time.
Yeah.
And now
I think I saw this. They were Bloods, not Crips. Though.
Bloods. Apologies to the Crips,
Yeah,
first of
yeah.
all.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to besmirch them on Race War / come.
No, I
Yeah.
had to learn how to do a crip walk very, very deeply still.
I think
You're
the
in
Bloods have
California,
their
dude.
own
You need to learn.
dance.
They do the
Yeah.
blood bounce.
Yeah,
but the
which
crip
is the
walk,
same thing as they're very similar dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is weird because you think that would be the best way to keep white people out of your gang is by having a special dance.
Yeah.
But that guy still managed to learn it and get in the gang and bring all of his dumb fucking Judas Priest iconography and ruin the basketball game for everybody. I mean, that's like, I don't think prison rape is right, but if you...
Well, they interviewed the guy who got raped. He's like, I think it's fine. You know, my mom
really?
doesn't know. My girlfriend doesn't know. Why are you being interviewed about it? then?
Because that was in that documentary Turned Out. Did
That's
you see
what it was,
that?
yeah.
With narrated by Danny Trejo.
Oh damn.
Which when he was still like kind of figuring out what kind of post-heat career he wanted to have.
Yeah, Lyft driver was talking to Stav like about places to go in LA. He's like, yeah, you got to go to the top of there's a building in downtown that they have a slide on the side of the building. And Stav's like, Adam, you trying to do this? Like, and I was like, no, I don't want to go to it's a
slide?
fucking slide.
Yeah.
That's like really high up. And then he's like, yeah, you also got to get like a burrito or a taco at Danny Trejo's place. That was like one of the, and Stav's like, Adam, are you trying to get Danny Trejo? I was like, this is bad advice. He's not telling us anything good to do. This guy is clearly not, whatever. But it's funny that he told us to get Danny Trejo tacos.
Maybe they're good.
Of Dicks Out for Harambe fame.
Yeah. He's got a cool backstory. You know about Trejo?
What is it? Did he rape a white boy named Johnny Henderson?
He did. Yeah, Tom Henderson. And then that's the plot of Machete 2. No, he like he was like a criminal or whatever, but he used to like rob convenience stores with a fucking grenade.
Oh yeah, I heard this. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did he get away with that?
He was in prison for a long fucking time. He was actually like like middleweight or like San Quentin like boxing champion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I mean, he didn't have an acting career until he got out. He was in prison with Eddie Bunker from Reservoir Dogs.
Which one's Eddie Bunker again?
Eddie Bunker is like Mr. White, maybe? The guy that doesn't
No,
really
that's
talk.
Harvey Keitel. It's not Mr. Brown. It's Mr. like Blue or some shit.
Yeah. He's the
I know who you're talking about.
the
Yeah,
older guy.
mustache.
Yeah, mustache.
Yeah,
That
is
dude's-
Mr. Blue is if you eat a girl out with hypothermia.
Yeah. That's how he got the name. That's what
Yeah.
all the name. That's a
What else did Eddie Bunker
yeah.
in?
I don't know, but his story is nuts because he, like back in the day, back when he was like an LA criminal, in like the fucking 60s or whatever, his thing was he would like design robberies
Oh, wow.
and then sell the robberies, like the plans.
Were they good
this
robberies?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, enough. I don't know what he actually went to
Get the
prison
fuck
for.
out of here, really?
I know, yeah. Isn't that cool?
That's fuck. Oh, I talked to Steve Buscemi about Reservoir Dogs because Chris Penn. Is it Chris Penn?
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The better of the two.
Yeah, Chris Penn was like mean to him because he was like getting into character. He goes, yeah, because our characters don't like each other. So he'd be like really like mean to him. And he said like after it was over. And by the way, Steve Buscemi didn't know. He didn't tell him this until after he had already been bullying him. And he goes, I know, because our characters don't like each other, but now we can be cool. And he was like, and then when he was nicer to me, it was worse than when he was mean to me.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, there's the movie King of Comedy.
Yeah, of course.
So like
I love that movie, dude.
It's so
Sandra
good.
Bernhard's finest work.
yeah. Well,
She's insane in that.
I remember I read that that fucking Jerry Lewis, like, because De Niro was like a serious method actor and Scorsese took his shit real seriously. To get Jerry Lewis to be angry enough in the role,
Right.
They were just like calling him kike and stuff.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
thought they
yeah.
hid his back pills.
Does he have back problems?
Yeah, he was like a opiate. The height of his back pill addiction is when he made The Day the Clown Cried.
Really? I didn't realize it was, that late.
why?
You never heard
Holy
The Day the
shit.
Clown Cried?
I know the story.
Yeah,
I
we
saw him
talked about it.
perform it because Patton owns it, I guess. Patton Oswalt.
Oh, really? Because I thought like he said he would never release it, and then like this year he said
The
he was-
Library of Congress just got a copy, and they're gonna release it in like 10 years or
Yeah.
something.
The Library of Congress is like
I am counting the days because seeing them act that movie out is unbelievable. I mean, what an unbelievably stupid story.
I can't imagine any way I wouldn't be disappointed by it. It's like how people fucking recommend The Room to me all the time, and I've never seen it.
It's so fucking hysterical, dude. I used to when Ugly Americans came out, they had me do a promo where I introduced The Room and his theater. And the guy, George, what's his last name? I keep wanting to say George Glass, but it's George Gross. Mm-hmm. He contacted Tommy and got Tommy to bring. I'm friends with the guy who plays Oh Hi Mark.
Yeah,
because I think they're making that movie out of Mark.
Out of Greg Sestero.
Yeah, Sestero lives out here, so he was a really cool guy. And the guy who gets his dick sucked on the couch. Who makes that crazy? That dude doesn't like Tommy at all. But we made a fake room. Like we made this fake like preview that we got the bad guy Chris from The Wire, like to be the give me the money Denny guy.
Chris R.
We got and then we got Harrison Greenbaum to be Denny, and Jay was the girl Lisa, and I was him. I was fucking
Tommy.
Yeah, I was Tommy.
Incredible.
And it really looked like fucking. It was called Room Part 2, The Room. And we had to sneak Tommy out of the theater. I had Karen and my friend Haircut Jesse dress up like whores and distract him because he would have flipped out if he had seen that we made this parody with people from The Room. But Sestero wouldn't be in it because he was still tight with him. And he's like, he'll be so upset, I just can't.
Well, the other movie's about to come out, right? The disaster artist,
James Franco.
Yeah.
Sestero's book's really interesting if you watch it.
I hear it's like laugh out loud funny. Like I don't often laugh. No, the book. Like I don't often laugh from books.
Oh yeah, he's never met a person like this guy in his life.
Yeah.
But Tommy Wiseau is like not. He doesn't disappoint. Like he's exactly what the fuck you think he is from the movies.
He's incredible.
Like a maniac.
So my friend got he got it in advance, but now it's on Hulu, The Neighbors, which was his follow-up to The Room.
George showed me that. That was his sitcom.
It is a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
George sent him 5 letters to get him to bring The Room, okay? Because he wanted to show it in New York. These NYU kids. Mm-hmm. And it was like a big thing. It was awesome too to see it. They had a band that played when they'd go over the bridge in the beginning.
Oh shit!
Because I didn't want to go. It's like Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of shit of like.
Oh yeah, it's interactive now. Yeah,
but it was funny. It was fun. But then it was like The Room's pretty much over. It was like
that's the thing. I can't participate in shit. It's just like
I did. Man. It was fun as fuck.
Yeah,
I swear to God, I got so into it.
There's a scene where Mark has a beard the whole movie, and then he just shows up without a beard.
Yeah, with no beard.
And people grow their beards out and then go to the bathroom and shave their beards. They like come back.
Really?
I can't imagine a universe in which I would enjoy participating.
Dude, I'm telling you,
I couldn't either, but I saw it. It's like the best because it's never boring.
It's like
amazing to make a movie that bad that's not boring.
I mean, I guess the sex scenes maybe get a little intense.
They're so great that he insisted on his ass being in there.
No
like,
way.
Like when you know the mind behind making this movie, it's so fascinating. And like, the propaganda about himself he wrote into this movie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I want to watch it again because I haven't seen it in so long.
Yeah.
It ruined my ability to evaluate art.
There's a we were at work. We were briefly there was like talk of doing like something on hacking. So we were going through the Sony emails, and I found this email that someone sent to Amy Pascal at the head of Sony.
Yeah,
he's like, this is my screenplay. You know, I hope you like it. I'm trying to get this made into a movie. You know, so it's a crazy person sending a and the screenplay is called it's like The Only Man Left on Earth. And the plot is like an astronaut. There's a virus that wipes out all men except for one astronaut who is in space when the virus happens. And then he comes back and he's irresistible to the women. And they can't he couldn't get a date before the virus happened, but now he's having to beat off 10s and 9s left and right. And I read that it's all scrambled because the emails are formatted fucked up.
Yeah.
But I read some of it and I emailed the guy and I'm like, can I please have the full script? I read some of it and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I'll get it. He's like, I'm out of town, but I'll get it to you. So I'm waiting on that screenplay.
Dude, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I used to
but I'm sure I would get bored with that within like the first 20 minutes. In fact, I'm already bored now that I've told other people about it.
That's amazing, man. That's like, I've often dreamed of that happening.
What, being the
A virus
astronaut?
kills all the men.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is like it seems like the dumbest bullshit in the world, but it's also like that would be a successful movie. Why wouldn't that fucking work?
Yeah.
The movies where the guy, because that's what Tommy Wiseau's, the movies like, he's such a great guy, constantly betrayed by those he loves.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And his beautiful younger friend Mark, who's so much younger and more beautiful than him. And he's obsessed, like he thinks like 20 something is like the perfect age. It's in the book about his weird youth obsession. And then what's the fucking line that he couldn't get right? You're taking me apart, Lisa?
Yeah, you're tearing me apart, Lisa.
But he kept saying taking me apart.
Yeah.
And the dude, and we had a thing like that where I kept saying taking me apart. Oh, the guy who gets the blowjob told me while on the scene, they go, he couldn't say tearing me apart. Like it took forever because he kept saying you're taking me apart. And he said just to watch a mean man melt down so much. Like he hates him.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that guy's name? The one who's lost his...
I forget.
Because I lost me underwears.
He's just in it for 2 scenes and then sort of disappears into the fabric of the universe.
Oh, but he was in our preview. He hated Tommy. Greg likes him still. Because Tommy is like one of those... You could tell if you were his friend, like... And Greg would tell us, she's like, oh yeah, Tom says he's got a lot of stuff to tell me tonight, finally.
Yeah.
Like, he would tell him secret parts of his personal history and shit.
Yeah.
Like, it would be like big revelations, because my theory was he was immortal. Like, he had an indeterminate accent and like that Highlander hair. And he was old, but like weirdly muscular.
Well, when Phil was working like summer internship when we were in college in like for a management company, he told us, we were obsessed with The Room, and he told his boss, like, what if we like sell... We knew that Tommy Wiseau said he had a television show, but no one had seen it. And he's like, well, let's sell it to Adult Swim or something like that. It's really bad. But he had a voicemail on his old cell phone from Tommy.
Oh, they go forever. They go on forever.
Which we coveted, and then he fucking lost. I'm like, so it's one of the things I'm like most upset about. Yeah, they go on forever. He leaves 4 different phone numbers to like reach him.
I had an old flip phone, and the only like one of the 4 things I had on it was a picture of when I worked at GameStop. My boss had shit his pants at work one day, and I took a picture of the back of his pants with shit all over it. And I just couldn't save the picture when I transferred phones.
Oh, what a disaster.
How do you come now?
I don't anymore. To memories, I guess.
I haven't come since then.
Yeah. Well, I stopped coming once I hit puberty. I used to just beat off to that picture.
I have Benjamin Button prostate, it's called.
That's what I call my penis.
My balls
Benjamin
raised
Button.
at puberty. Hey, how long do we go? Because I got to get out of here, man.
Yeah, another 3 minutes. I mean, we could cut it off now, I guess.
You have another 3 minutes?
Yeah, that's...
I have to go to Santa
He's
Monica.
gotta
What
go
do you
to
have to do with
Santa
Santa Monica?
My cousin lives there, and I haven't seen him this whole time I've been in LA. And he's taking me
See?
to the airport tomorrow.
You've got to come. So
Yeah, you gotta fuck your cousin.
I gotta go fuck my
I
cousin.
haven't fucked my cousin in forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, yeah, if you want to wrap it up there.
Well, yeah, we could.
I mean...
Oh, I got to try to get Greg on Race Wars, man. I'm glad you reminded me. When the movie comes out, I'll get him.
Greg Sestero, come town.
Yeah.
He's
the fucking coolest guy, man. He really is a nice dude.
Is he cool?
I like him a lot, yeah.
That movie is gonna be good, I heard. Like people are hyping
I'm sure
it up.
Franco will play, because Franco almost kind of, when he gets old, is going to be that.
He's gonna be Tommy.
Yeah. I think Tommy got raped by cops in like fucking Bulgaria or something.
Is that where
he's
the
from?
accent
He won't
comes
say
from?
where he's from.
Does he have a cop accent?
No, he won't say where he's from.
Yeah.
He'll only say that he is an American now.
Yeah. He talks like that because he clenches his asshole with every word.
Where's Vietnam from?
Belgium.
The muscles from
I think
Brussels.
he's from
Muscles from
Belgium.
Brussels. There's Brussels in Belgium.
You know how he made his fortune, Tommy?
What? The cheesecake place?
Importing fancy dresses, I thought.
Well, he owns that cheesecake place where they're always eating.
Oh, he owns
That's his place, yeah. He owns that place.
Nick, you should watch The Room.
And then the making of, showing you the making of the movie. So they have all these balcony scenes, okay, which is a great view of San Francisco.
But it's all blue screen, right?
Yeah, they then put up blue screens because he's like, I don't want this cheap.
I should watch the movie only so I have something to talk about
Nick,
on podcast
they
for the
shot
last
the
20
movie-
minutes.
They shot the movie in two
This
different
started with-
formats for no apparent reason.
What are the 2 formats?
Like, what is it?
Magic Eye and...
It's like
35
somewhere you're
millimeter.
like, no one, he's going to do something never done before. They're like, no, but just technically there would be no reason to do this.
Yeah.
And then he also fucking
It's kind of my dream to be him, though. I want to just be exploited for being a fucking moron and then just check out.
No, you see, that's where you're wrong. He's not like the guy from Windy City Heat who's like a kind of more of a victim.
Yeah.
Like that was more of an LA meanness thing.
Yeah.
Even if it was kind of funny,
Yeah.
but that guy is an idiot. But
well, there's
that's
always
different.
a meanness to
Tommy Wiseau
everything.
Is the master here?
Yeah.
It's not like
It's outsider art. It's like there's this band, the Shags,
Yeah.
who are these 3 girls that grew up in the woods in like New Hampshire, and like I think their dad was like the head of a Christian cult, but he
Yeah.
gave them instruments. He gave them like guitars and bass and drums, but they like were so isolated from society they just like invented their own music.
Is it
It's like
good?
insane. No, it's bad. I mean,
Oh.
but it's like sort of interesting, and it's maybe at points kind of good.
They're called the Shags.
The Shags.
They had to invent their own music, like that twin language Jodie Foster. had
Oh
to
yeah,
learn.
yeah. Like on some, they're complete outside. I mean, they're like isolated from influence, and I think Tommy's like that. I think he's such a psychopath, and he's
Well, yeah, it's
Such a
definitely outside
narcissist.
art, but he's influenced by everything, and that's like you can tell. He also, the green screen. That's my favorite part. They already have this view. They put up these giant blue screens, and then put the same view that they have without the blue screens, and they show you putting up. You're like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And when you watch it, it looks really fake and not as good as if you just did. But he's like, it's not going to look fucking cheap. So he fucking spent extra money to make it look cheaper because he was that crazy.
Yeah. Well, I don't buy that it's like there is like a laughing at an idiot aspect there.
oh,
No.
100%.
Even if it's not as cruel, but I mean,
Hold on.
which I don't have a problem with, by the way.
This is what you understand. It was never meant to be a comedy. Like
Yeah.
He said it was Tennessee Williams.
he
Said he fancied himself the new Tennessee Williams. And that's
Yeah.
the crazy thing about The Neighbors.
David
is that
Cross saw it. I see how you're getting
Yeah,
this idea
this-
because David Cross happened to see the billboard. It's like,
Yeah.
what's that? Because he paid for this billboard that's very expensive.
like on Sunset or something.
And he
right?
saw it, and he couldn't believe he ever saw anything like it. I mean, when you see it, you'll get it. The actual guy's like a kind of a prick, but it's funny, man. He's such a fucking weirdo. It's like he deserves it, and also he got richer from it. But once he realized people were laughing at it, he then was like, "Oh, it was a comedy the whole time."
Then he marketed it as a dark comedy.
So if you see the
Yeah.
preview,
once he found out it
it
was
plays
funny.
the first
Yeah.
thing. It's like a best friend betrayed, all this. And at the end they go, "It's a comedy." You just hear a voice coming in.
I do the same thing with comedy where I try to be funny and then people don't think it's funny. I'm like, actually, I was intentionally being
Yeah,
racist.
Nick's
That was
comedy
stand-up
is what's-
drama.
It was supposed to be racist the entire
Nick's
time.
comedy is what's known as outsider art.
It's outsider art.
Yeah.
Nick used to sleep outside.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I guess we're out of time if you guys got a jet.
I gotta roll.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks.
All right, that's what are you calling again? Race cum?
Yeah, I guess
Race cum.
something. Later.
Not cum wars.
That's the attack of the remakes, re-releases, and reimaginings. That's a lot of R's.
Yep. Alliteration is your.
It's my friend. No, it's just that everyone does stuff that has re at the beginning these days. That's the gaming industry. That's what it's come to. Rehashes. We're going to talk about them on this episode of Retronauts for May 7th, 2009. I'm the host, Jeremy Parrish, and with me this week,
James Milky.
Curtis said,
and you're here because
I'm going to talk about Virtual On.
way to go. Let's do that.
I'm going to talk about Virtual On with you.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
Thanks.
It's very thrilling. There's probably an R word that stands in for thrilling that we could use here.
Riveting.
Yes. Very good. We should give this man his own show.
Yep.
I get a gold star.
All right, so yeah, I feel like this week is just this gigantic confluence of remakes and rehashes and re-releases and so on and so forth. Like
that can be good stuff, though.
yeah, I mean, Space Invaders Extreme, which is kind of a sequel-ish, remake-ish kind of thing, has just come out for Xbox Live Arcade, or is coming out tomorrow, or something. I don't
Something
know.
like that. It was similar to the one
soon.
that came out on the PSP, or was it DS?
You know,
It was both, actually.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just this one got Jeff Minterized.
Oh, goody. So it's Lamatron.
Yeah, it's Lamatron.
Well, I still have my DS version, so I don't have to sear my eyes.
The Space Invaders in the Xbox Live one are pixel perfect, though. They
Are
were
they?
not in the DS and PSP one because of the dimensions of the screen, so they had to be adjusted. So for purists who actually notice that kind of stuff,
And the UFO that comes across the screen, is it actually...
pixel perfect.
Is it a marsupial, though? Or like a llama, maybe?
No, I think
Is
it
it
was
some
an
kind of
actual
furry
shit still.
animal?
I think it's still a UFO.
Oh.
Yeah, no flying monkeys.
So what's Jeff Minter's influence here?
The backgrounds,
Oh, okay.
like the orgasmic visuals in the backgrounds, are by Jeff Minter.
But there are no farm animals, no alpacas
No,
throbbing
it's
in the
Space
background.
Invaders featuring Jeff Minter backgrounds.
Oh,
Yeah, I was watching.
that sounds tolerable.
I was watching Ray Barnhold play a couple of minutes ago, and it's trippy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't excited about it until I actually saw it being played.
and you were like, this is going to save me so much on acid tabs.
Yeah.
I can just play the game and I'm there.
That game actually has a lot more depth and technique than I originally gave it credit for.
Oh, yeah. It's really fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a great sequel. I mean, it's really basically Space Invaders gets the Pac-Man CE edition.
Yeah.
But I feel like Taito's had more faith in the game than Namco did in Pac-Man CE, because that was great, and then it just kind of fell off the face of the earth. And then they hired like Sonic the Hedgehog's character designer to create the grand re-envisioning of Pac-Man for the next Pac-Man game. Like, I don't want Pac-Man to be a mascot with attitude. He's already done that.
Mm-hmm.
That was what Pac-Man 2 was about in the 16-bit era. No, let's not do that.
It was a second perspective game. You didn't even control Pac-Man,
Right.
which was pretty fun.
I mean,
Playing as a
no,
sling
that's fine, but that's not what I want when I
Yeah.
play a Pac-Man. Like, Pac-Man 2 suggested, hey, this game is the grand follow-up to Pac-Man that everyone's been waiting for, and it was actually a graphical adventure, which was...
Yeah, it was fun playing as a slingshot.
It was Gumshoe with Pac-Man. Kind of strange.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's not really the point. The point is that, there's Space Invaders Extreme, there's Banjo-Kazooie or Banjo-Tooie on Xbox Live Arcade, Virtual On Oratorio Tangram,
Voot.
everyone get on your Voot suit. Capcom just announced Marvel vs. Capcom 2
Yes.
re-release for Xbox Live and PSN. There's a release of Klonoa for Wii, complete remake from the ground up of the original game.
Yeah.
Like it's all happening right here. I guess before E3 hits, and
It's a good week for people who like games who have been around to appreciate these things. When Marvel vs. Capcom 2 first came out, that was like, almost 10 years ago.
Something like that.
And all those versus games, that's the one too, because all those versus games that Capcom did around that time that eventually came out on Dreamcast, like it was the sequels that really, really kicked ass, like SNK versus Capcom 2, Marvel versus Capcom 2. Those were all super good.
Mm-hmm. I always kind of felt that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was a little too loose because it was just so many combos all the time. I did prefer SNK versus Capcom most of the time because it really just felt like a clean fighter.
Yeah.
I always preferred Capcom vs. SNK on Neo Geo Pocket. That was awesome.
What, the card battle?
Not the card, but well, that was good too. But I was thinking Match of the Millennium.
Oh, okay.
That was a
The one that
damn
actually,
fine fighting
the
game.
one that actually featured Zero and Demon's
No,
Crest War.
not the PS2 one.
Oh, okay.
Not Battle Coliseum or
Neo
whatever that was
Geo
called.
Pocket?
Yeah, the Neo
Yeah.
Geo Pocket Color one.
That still has like the best D-pad, the 8-directional.
Yeah, that clicky stick was great, but
clicky.
the fighting games on that system, I don't even like fighting games, but they were so good.
Yeah,
they
it
were
was
like
fun.
super accessible. They looked great for the platform.
Yeah, that was a good handheld.
The old days. Anyway, so yeah, like you said, this week is good for people who have been around for a while, but I think it's also good for people who haven't experienced these games to kind of go back and revisit, these classics that people talk about a lot, with, kind of an updated presentation so they can appreciate the underlying substance of the game and what makes them so good without getting distracted by the fact that, there's, polygon warping in Klonoa because it's a PlayStation game, and that's stupid. I don't play games with low resolution textures. It puts aside all that stuff, and with that out of the way, people can just enjoy the game for what it is in the context of a current platform. And I think it really does a lot of favors to. I mean, it really lets these games that are genuinely great, genuinely timeless, really shine.
And most of these games really do stand the test of time. I mean, they're not all equal in their quality, but for example, the Klonoa remake is so good, so good.
We'll talk about that more later. But just about all the remakes, I think, in the current phase of things are top notch, very good quality stuff. So anyway, let's begin by talking about Virtual On, because I know nothing about it, so I'm just going to let you guys go for it. What the hell is Virtual On?
Curtis?
When I think Oratorio Tangram, the first thing that comes to my mind, and it's terrible, but I think of Liverpool Oratorio, that horrible classic music
by
Paul McCartney in the early 90s. That's like the, oh God.
That's a weird tangent to
It is,
pick up
but
off
that's that Oratorio thing.
Curtis, how old are you?
24 in a couple of days.
Okay, so you were
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thanks.
You were still like probably I don't know,
in diapers.
13 when Oratorio Tangram came out.
I thought it was older than that. I thought it was a 96 game.
No, like because
or is that the first Virtual On?
Yeah, the thing with Voot, and I remember when this sequel was announced, I was like expecting Virtual On 2, and then they bust out this name Oratorio Tangram. I'm like, what are you thinking? But
it's a good acronym though.
It is, but the interesting thing about Oratorio Tangram was that in Japanese arcades, the dominant arcade game was Virtua Fighter 3. Virtua Fighter 3 TB tournament battle, right? That thing was like number one in the arcades when.
So we're talking right about the time the Dreamcast launched in Japan, like mid '90,
a little bit
98.
before that. A little bit before that, because Model 3 had it preceded the Dreamcast by a couple of years, and it was Virtua Fighter 3 was the flagship game. They always launched their new hardware with a Virtua Fighter game. So Virtua Fighter 3, state of the art. Number one in the arcades. Tekken was like a distant number 8 or something on like the arcade charts in Japan.
As it should be.
Right. This is when arcades still mattered, and nothing could knock Virtua Fighter off the top of the charts until Virtual On came on the scene. Oratorio Tangram. This is the game that knocked Virtua Fighter off the top of the charts. Unbelievable. I was like, what is it about this game that I guess Japanese arcade gamers love so much? I don't know if it was the mech designs. I can't remember his name. Is like Hajime something. He did all the I believe it was it's either Gundam or Macross designs.
Probably Macross
because they're sexier. And I don't know what it was, but maybe it was
Gundam was like boxes on legs.
Yeah, or maybe it was the linked cabinets. I don't know, but whatever it was. This game blew up in Japan, and I was dying to see how this was going to be converted to Dreamcast. If it could even be done. What do you remember?
In the original arcades, I was just intimidated by it because the twin sticks really confused me a lot. I would usually jump when I didn't want to. I would go sometimes in the wrong directions because it was really sort of tank controls, and it was really hard to get used to.
The thing with the twin stick controls that I remember was that when I first started playing, I was a little bit delicate with the controls because I didn't want to break them, because like the fast action that was required, like slamming both sticks to the right, outwards, forward, left, forward, right one back, the turn, all that stuff. I realized eventually that it just needed. You really had to get into it. You couldn't pussyfoot around with these controls. You just had to slam those controls, but they held up. Mm-hmm. It was a very sturdy arcade cabinet.
Okay, now you talked a little bit about some of the details of the game, but what was the game itself? It was a mech, like,
It was a
one-on-one
mech-
battle game,
Yeah, it was
right?
a mech fighting game. When I think about it, I think about the Bastard, where it was a fighting game where instead of side to side, your opponent was far away from you, and you would chuck lasers and fireballs and jump from side to side.
Yeah, you were basically chasing yourselves around like a limited arena. They were still pretty big, but they were for the most part flat with some objects in them that you could jump on if you were clever enough. But you were basically darting around the level and using various weapons to try and blow the other guy up. But these weapons had charge time, so if you use like you have an armor breaking weapon, and you have a pretty much just like a standard like rapid fire weapon like a machine gun or something, and using those strategically would determine the outcome, of course, in addition to your own skill. But it was pretty much a one-on-one mech combat game.
So kind of like Power Stone meets Zone of the Enders, but of course before either one of those.
A little bit.
The two games that I want to mention in comparison to this, like Armored Core was never as cool as Virtual On.
Well, that was Armored Core is more about the actual setup and development of your mech as opposed to the fighting.
Well, yeah, there is that, but you still spend a great deal of time wandering around arenas trying to like take down this very hard mech. But there are two games that did the Virtual On thing just as good, if not better. Just going to mention them briefly. One is Frame Gride, which was also by From Software, but that game just got everything right. And the other series is Custom Robo. Custom Robo.
That was like the kiddie version, right?
It's the kiddie version, but it's in battle. Once you remove the RPG elements, Custom Robo is almost exactly what Virtual On wants to be, but with better controls.
And that was a first-party Nintendo release for GameCube, right?
For GameCube, and then also did they?
Was there a Wii one, or I can't remember now.
No, it was N64, and then GameCube.
Right, and who developed it?
And then DS. I can't remember the name of the developer, but it was one of those like second-party type deals. Yeah. So, but Virtual On Oratorio Tangram was interesting because like that one did actually make it to the States, so I was able to play it here, and the controls were great in the arcade. Amazingly, when they put it out on Dreamcast, you remember?
Yeah, I played it a couple of times. I didn't
Okay.
actually own the game myself.
Somehow the controls were just not right.
Well, I mean, it was a twin-stick game, and the Dreamcast didn't have twin sticks.
Didn't they release? I'm almost positive they released twin sticks for it in Japan, but it was. I remember there was like a bit of a controversy because in America they were not sure. Like there were rumors that Sega might offer the sticks on their website, but it was ultimately published by Activision and stuff. So the Dreamcast controls were kind of jacked because you only had one analog stick, and then you had face buttons on the other side of the Dreamcast controller, right?
It's kind of like Katamari Damacy on PSP. It just like
Doesn't really work.
right.
Yeah,
And even going from like a twin stick control to dual analog sticks, even that doesn't necessarily feel right for like.
and that's what drives me crazy. about,
Katamari Damacy, like I just mentioned. Started on PS2 where you have the twin analog sticks on the DualShock. And then they released beautiful Katamari for Xbox 360, and even though it has twin sticks, they feel different, and the game never felt right because the sticks don't actually rise above the controller itself, so you kind of miss that tactile feeling. So I would imagine that for something like Virtual On, it would be even more deleterious to the gameplay.
Well, before we move on to the Xbox port or our conversion of Voot, let's briefly mention Virtual On Mars, which came out for PS2. That was the first time that I guess Virtual On had come to a home console in which the standard controller had almost the ability to replicate what was going on in the arcades. I could not manage Mars for the life of me. I mean, it was cool. I was so happy to have Virtual On PS2. That was when Sega first started doing, games for other systems. And as nice as it is, it's just ultimately a very shallow, hollow experience just because, it's Sega bringing their arcade games over never really had the depth or the meat to them that Namco put into their home ports. So Mars was the first experiment with dual analog controls, and they didn't get it right. So with Voot on Xbox 360, I was thinking, oh my God, when I fired it up, it looked so beautiful, 60 frames per second. It was like 10 years ago, this was a $20,000 arcade machine that you'd have to put like $2 into play, right? Just unbelievable.
Now it's $18.
Now it's what
I think it was
like
15 or
15.
I thought it was 800 points. Anyway, I don't.
No, I think it's a little bit more than that.
Oh, is it like
I think it's
1,200 points?
something like that.
Okay. I can't remember. I just added points to my account.
Anyway,
downloaded it.
It's cheap.
Boom.
It's a lot less than the arcade unit was.
Yeah, it was no $10,000 download. Let's put it that way. But it's so clean looking. It's so. It brings me back to like the real glory days of the arcade. That's the feeling that I get when I fire it up. It's just like wow. You see the start. Even the start screen is just so crispy and fresh. You just want to like jump right in, and then all the mechs line up and they're high definition. It's just like unbelievable. You cannot believe that you have this game on your Xbox, on your HDTV. It's so beautiful. And they added a lot of stuff. They added things like being able to customize your colors. Although apparently you can't do that. You can't use your customized mech online.
I believe I've used my customized mech once online.
Have you? Because like I was having a hard time finding that the customized colored mech offline, and I don't know what I was doing wrong with it.
It was the Dreamcast card symbol, what were they called? VMUs?
VMUs.
That's kind of the funny thing. Even though they ported it to Xbox and PS3, they still kept all the Dreamcast stuff in there.
I thought that little retro nod was really cool. And most of the mechs have Dreamcasts on their backs with spinning discs, although a couple of them have Saturns. So the thing that drives me nuts is that like okay I was having a hard time getting those customized colors online, but then I talked to Sega about it and they said that that's an ESRB thing, and I'm like because they wanted to control God knows like
You can't do like your own emblems though. It's just colors.
no
right?
you can't. It's just colors.
What if you make your mech the color of a penis?
I know. It's like that's penis colored, or that's vagina. That's a vagina colored mech. Like, what the fuck is the ESRB thinking? With like censoring. Like, oh no, you can't bring your customized mech online because it may be a color combination that's not
The
teen.
ESRB's head is so far up its collective ass. It's not even funny.
Every time I hear something like that, I want to throw a cat through a window. It's like I was like, are you serious? Like, but anyway, so you can customize your own mechs. They have a few new mechs that didn't exist before, or not.
Yeah, there were
like
like 3 copies of that one. I can't remember their names off the top of my head.
Right, there's like
a short version, a long range version, and one that's like in between.
Yeah, it's a combination of other mechs. It's like the Frankenstein of virtual on mechs, but it's really cool. It's got the it's got online play. It's got everything you need. It's really a beautiful thing. The thing that pisses me off about Voot for Xbox though is that even though they have dual analog controls now, it's still kind of the same thing. I don't know if it's because I'm used to playing other games that play similarly and I'm expecting them to be as responsive, but the controls are still jacked. And there are multiple settings, so you can.
Is it just a tactile thing? Is it that you want to be like holding those sticks and pushing them back and forth and really
it's not
adding that physical
it's not
element to
that
it?
like when I when I want to turn and I use the controls that are as faithful to the arcade version as possible. So if I push up on the left analog stick, down on the right analog stick, I'm expecting my mech to rotate to the right. And it just does not do it as fast as it needs to be. Like in the arcade, you jam that controller and go bam, and like your dude turns and you're jumping and you really feel like you're in the shit, but with the controller it just does not feel right. And I know that there are a lot of hardcore Voot players out there who get it, but that's still a very, very, very small percentage of the people who are downloading. I was looking at some message boards and I saw one thread that said like, "Dear veterans, how do I not blow at this game?" And it was very honest. It was like this guy who heard all about Voot, wanted to be good at it, wanted to really get past that learning curve and discover the sweet spot where all of a sudden it turns into this awesome, versus game. And he was just like, he just couldn't figure it out. He's like, no matter what controls I use, I cannot figure it out, and there's a lot of technique, there's a lot of depth to it, but it's really, really hard, and it doesn't feel as good or as intuitive as the arcade version did.
Yeah, sometimes I just pussy out and do the standard one where it's just the one analog stick and the second analog stick just controls the camera.
Yeah.
And there's just times where I'm forced to do that because sometimes I just don't feel like I have enough control otherwise.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, remember Voot came out in the days before, like, you know, everybody started adding lock-ons to the game and stuff. I mean, if they had a lock-on in Voot, it would be too easy because it would just be two guys locked onto each other running around in a circle, shooting and jumping and trying to dodge, you know. But I still think it should have probably been a little bit closer to that. They should have tinkered a little bit just to make it more accessible to the, you know, to the newbie who you know. I've played Virtual On for, like, you know, 12, 13 years now in various forms, from arcade to Saturn to arcade to Dreamcast, PS2, and now Xbox. And I still have a hard time with this thing, and it shouldn't be this tough.
Yeah, I'm a complete newbie compared to you, and it was just intimidating getting back into the twin sticks, and I thought maybe there's just something wrong with me. I thought Masters would pick this up and have no problem at all, but I'm getting a new perspective.
Right. And, you know, there are forums with people who, you know, I saw one thread post where this guy said, like, okay, well, if you're new, try these things. This is how you dash. This is how you know, this is how you hug the getting knocked down when you get hit by a big blast. So there's a lot of techniques. There's a lot of things that veterans will know how to do that newcomers won't. But the problem is that while I appreciate the depth, you know, playing against people who know what they're doing is so, you know, the gap is so wide that you'd be discouraged. If you're a new player, you might be discouraged you might not ever want to play again just because you're like, no fucking way am I going back online because I'm just going to get shellacked. You know, and that discourages learning, in my opinion.
Well, that's the problem with the fighting game genre in general. Any kind of technique-driven fighting game, like Virtua Fighter,
yeah,
you just can't go up against someone who knows the game if you're just starting out because you'll be pasted.
Yeah, but this is even a little tougher though because you're dealing with truly, like, you know, like 3 dimensions. You're running into and out of the foreground. You're ducking and rolling, you're jumping in the air, you're trying to avoid these huge things. There's so much going on. There's so much chaos that, you know, the training mode that's built into Voot, there's just no way. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not going to teach you the things that you're going to experience in the real world environment. You know, it shows you the controls and how to rotate and, you know, how to, you know, do your hidden attacks and all that stuff. But
I was even looking at the tutorial and I was still confused after reading all of it, and I had to practice for like 4 hours before I really understood what they were talking about.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, I love it to death on one hand because, like I said, it is like having a brilliant Sega Model 3 arcade machine on your $300 360, you know, just stored on your hard drive for all time, and it's just a beautiful thing. But I just wish that, you know, it had, you know, they'd done a little work to make it more accessible to newcomers. Like I said, the controls have never felt right coming home. Even when they did bring the twin sticks, it still didn't feel right. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because I can't, like, really yank on that thing because it's going to just come off the table or what, but it doesn't feel right.
And there's no way to use the Steel Battalion controller on 360, right?
No. There's no adapters for that, but that was really built for Steel Battalion and was, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just, that's more like an airplane cockpit when you need.
Yeah.
But the good thing, the thing that I really like is between Outrun and Virtual On, it gives me hope for some of the other Model 3 games that never came home. I mean,
like Planet Harriers.
Well, you know, there's some crazy shit that Sega put out there. There's like the airplane simulator that took up 3 screens, 3 big wide screens. I mean, I'm talking Boeing 747 kind of airplane simulator. I remember playing that one time in a Japanese arcade, and I 9/11 that shit. I was like, I could not fly this thing. It was like crazy because it was like Boeing sim, right? But then there's also games like they had like the Typing of the Dead and things like that. So, you know, hopefully more Sega arcade classics will come out because, you know, those things are just great.
It seems like they've kind of caught on to this digital distribution as a good way to provide their classics, and they have a strong library.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that they delve into that. That is something that I would like to see more of, is just Sega arcade games.
It'd be interesting.
They have the huge Genesis collection, 50
Right.
games, but there's no Sega arcade
I was
collection.
so tired of playing those fucking Genesis
Yeah,
games,
I know. Like,
Vector Man, I loved you back in the day. I loved you.
Here's a company with a 20-year arcade history, and they kind of gloss over
And
it
they're
in
still
favor of
selling
Sonic the
a Sonic.
Hedgehog.
Yeah, let's do Comic Zone again, or
Yeah.
let's play Sonic games.
But what other? There were some other. There must have been some other Model 3 things, but there's like the racing games like Scud Racer. Okay, that never came out in any form on console. So there's Scud Racer. There's just a ton of other things. Like, what would be interesting is if they ever brought out that game Quest of D. That.
Oh, right. That was what was that exactly? I remember hearing about it, but I'm getting that mixed up in my mind with Quest of Key, which was the sequel to Tower
Quest
of Draga.
of D, I think, was like this multiplayer kind of dungeon crawler / card game.
Right.
I don't know, but since arcades don't exist in America really anymore, except for like Chuck E. Cheese or whatever, but that doesn't even count. If they want to try and create an addictive networked type of arcade game, I mean, Xbox Live or PSN, those are the places to try it.
You'd think those would be really big, at least on the Japanese side of 360, because that's really kind of about half of what a Japanese arcade is anymore, is stuff like that, Lord of Vermilion by Square Enix.
Yeah.
The Gundam battle games where it's like
they can leave
eight systems combined.
They can leave the Derby Stallion shit at home though. Like,
I think I'm honestly surprised that they haven't really brought that stuff home, because it seems like it would be a pretty simple matter to come up with some sort of interchange between the arcade and the home version.
Well, I'm sure that arcades are dwindling even in Japan. So Sega still is trying, since they own those arcades in Japan, the Club Segas, I'm sure they still want to get like those salarymen out there with their cigarettes and plunking coins into the machine. But in Japan, I don't think it's worth it for them to take one of those out of the arcade yet, because 360 isn't that huge in Japan, obviously, and PS3 has a long ways to go before it's worth porting that over.
Right. Yeah, I was just thinking of maybe like some kind of synergy, but yeah, that you say that, it would probably cannibalize their arcade performance.
Yeah. It's amazing enough that they actually did put Virtua Fighter 3, Virtua Fighter 5 on Xbox 360 and PS3, because I think that was probably a concern at one point too. Isn't
Sega closing up a lot of its arcades? I think
it's possible.
I think everyone but Taito is basically getting hammered in terms of the arcade.
And why is Taito surviving?
I don't know. It's a mystery.
Space Invaders nostalgia.
I guess they did do that. That whole redeco of their Taito stations with the deep red and the big Space Invader icons and everything.
Going back to Space Invaders for a second, it's like I really love seeing the Space Invaders Extreme revival, because that was like probably the first arcade game I ever played. Was like, I don't know, 1979 or something. I remember going into a department store and seeing all these kids huddled around this cabinet. And I was like, what the hell is this cabinet? And I was like, all 4 feet tall or whatever. I walk up to the cabinet, I see a line of quarters at the top, and hear those like little digital sounds. And all these kids and just like this little ship at the bottom going pew, 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 and blowing up these Space Invaders was just mesmerizing. So I get those warm and fuzzies seeing Space Invaders Extreme. But what's funny about Space Invaders is that Taito loves to maximize the anniversary of Space Invaders every 5 years.
Yeah. 25th anniversary, 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
35th anniversary is coming up in just a few years.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they will take every opportunity they can to celebrate the birthday of Space Invaders.
But Space Invaders Extreme was the first time that they actually did it justice.
Yeah.
Up until Space Invaders Extreme, everything with the Space Invaders brand on it was just an embarrassment.
It was
kind
pretty
of
much
seemed like the same thing over and over again.
It was. They weren't doing anything interesting with it. Like, you basically had,
They had a bunch of PS2 games that were real shit.
Yeah, they were bad. Yeah. I mean, they basically said, hey, here is a version of Space Invaders that gives you every old arcade version up to like 1981.
Yeah.
Look, you can pretend that you have an overlay on your screen. It's like having colored cellophane. Wow, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whoever had the brilliant idea to go back to Space Invaders Extreme or to go back to Space Invaders and just totally amp it up and give you all kinds of new features and like make it look cool and slick.
Yeah.
That's really what Space Invaders needed to even be slightly interesting.
When I first saw Space Invaders Extreme, I could have swore. I mean, I was wondering. I was like, did Q Entertainment do this?
I thought the same thing.
Because it was fast. There was a lot of great techno music, you know, and there was
and it has all the digital effects in the background.
Right. It looked like all their Xbox Live games, like Medios and you know, all those. But it wasn't. It was just done by whoever did it, and it was fantastic. I couldn't believe how cool it was.
Yeah, I don't know if Space Invaders creator Nishi Kaito was involved in the original Space Invaders Extreme, but he's somehow become attached to the project since then. I guess, you know, he said, "Oh, it's a success. I think I'll put my name on this again."
Yeah, probably as a consultant.
Right. He's not with Taito anymore.
No.
But...
Did you see the promotional thing that Backbone, who handled the port, sent out?
Yeah, I have one of those, the little plaque that has Nishi Kaito's signature on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine is actually number 25 of, 190 or whatever.
I've got number 13. Which one do you have, Curtis?
I don't think I've got one at
Sorry.
all.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm a loser.
See, here I thought it was all awesome because Sam's is like 60 and Alice's is like 90, but no, fine, whatever.
I'm 13. But look, there's 12 dudes ahead of me. I bet like 5 of them are at Backbone Entertainment, though. Yeah.
Ginny Sue kept number 1 for herself.
She kept number 0. So yeah, Virtual On Voot is really awesome. I mean, who knows? Like maybe if I give it another 5 hours or something like that of hardcore intense playtime, I'll really get the controls down. But
you didn't need that to catch on to the arcade version, did you? Like it was pretty immediate.
Yeah, I mean, I just sat down in the cabinet. I followed the on-screen prompts to show you like how do you move right, how do you move left, how do you dash, and it was very, very simple to me. But the home conversions have not gotten it right, in my opinion.
Maybe someday.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Curtis.
All right, thanks.
Well, let's move on to Klonoa.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the rest of these games, so I'm going to be taking off. Thanks a lot, Milky. Thanks a lot, Jeremy.
Yep. Drop in sometime.
I will.
Don't be a stranger. So Klonoa, in my opinion, was and I know that you love Mario and Nintendo stuff, but I know that you also love Klonoa.
I do.
But for my money, like, and for all the games that I played in the 32, 64-bit era, I have to say that I think that Klonoa was the best platformer. I don't think that everybody should think that. I just think it was the best platformer because it did new things. The director, I did an interview with him recently about this upcoming Wii remake about the old Klonoa, the original development process, and he said that he told the development team to avoid doing anything that Mario did, which I thought was great. Like no butt stomps. Coin collecting wasn't a focus, although you do run around and collect quite a few gems. But why don't you kind of start off by talking about what you remember?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think actually, in retrospect, just in terms of pure action platformers, Klonoa is probably the best platformer of that generation. At the time, like Super Mario 64 impressed me the most. And I actually had to play Klonoa twice before I really got it. I picked it up just kind of, I don't really know what prompted me to pick it up in the first place because the cover was terrible. The ads were awful. Like there was nothing compelling about it, but I think maybe it was a spread I saw in GameFan that just made the game look so gorgeous and fun. I was like, wow, that looks like a really great, 3D platformer. And then I played it and I was like, say, that's not actually a 3D platformer. That's kind of strange. And I played through it, and it just seemed overly simplistic. And I got pretty close to the end, and it just never really did anything for me. So I gave up before I was finished. And it sat for maybe like 6 months or so. And in that time, I picked up an N64. I'd had an N64, and then when I realized nothing good was coming for it, I sold it off. And then Zelda came out, and I was like, fine, I'll go to an N64 again. So I was looking to build up my library for that, and people said a lot of good things about Banjo-Kazooie, so I decided to pick that up. And I played that for about an hour and decided that I really and truly hated it. And it was the most infuriating game. It was like, it tried to be Mario 64, but it tried to be bigger in every possible way. And the result was just a mess. It was like this big game that was too technically demanding for the system. Like the graphics, they just tried to do too much, and so they were really awful. Like you had these tiny little N64 textures spread across massive areas, so the game was this blurry, disgusting looking mess. The characters were just annoying, that crap, and the controls were inexcusable. I gave myself arthritis trying to do these ridiculously complex controls where you like jumped and then you had the stupid bird in the backpack do a butt stomp, and it required like 8 buttons to do these stupid things, and I just didn't enjoy it at all. And somewhere in my brain it clicked, and I thought, you know what, I should try Klonoa, because it does the same thing. It has these cute little animal characters, except they're actually appealing, and they do this babble talk, but it's actually kind of, fun instead of annoying.
And cool.
Yeah. So I went back and I tried Klonoa again, and I paid more attention to it instead of just sitting there and saying, when is this going to get good?
Yeah.
And I loved it. I thought it was amazing. And by the end of the game, I was just completely blown away. And I realized, I think it was, one of the first revelations I ever had, that a game doesn't have to be cutting edge. It doesn't have to push the boundaries of game design to be great. In fact, Klonoa with 2 buttons and 1 axis of control was so much better a game than Banjo-Kazooie. Like it really changed my outlook on gaming, and I think that's probably one of the reasons I'm in charge of the retro section now for the site, is because I realized, bigger and more ambitious isn't necessarily better, and sometimes it's best just to get back to the basics and do something that works and just excel at that. And what Klonoa excelled at was good, solid platforming gameplay. It starts out really simple, but about the midpoint, it starts to ramp up. And at the end, it's really, really challenging, especially the boss fights and some of the complex puzzle rooms in the final stages.
Yeah.
It excels at telling a story. It seems cutesy and stupid, like the introduction, the FMV. It's so saccharine and annoying. But then halfway through, a character dies.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, you find out the whole thing is just a damn lie, and nothing good happens to Klonoa. It's kind of heartbreaking.
You
realize, man.
That's one of the things I asked the director, and was about did you know that what kind of effect you were going to have on people who actually finished the game? Because it's actually a very bittersweet ending. I mean, I don't want to totally give it away for people who didn't play it, because that's a lot of people. Because Namco only made like a few of the original PS1 version in America, at least. That's usually a crime reserved for Sega.
Right. Well, I mean, that was releasing that game in the US. It's kind of amazing it happened at all, because it was just not a sellable game at that point. It's amazing that I even bought it when I did, but I'm glad I did. I'm glad I took the chance on it and took the time to find what was good about it. Because
I seem to recall Namco of the time almost kind of despising Klonoa, because they were like, what is Japan foisting upon us, forcing us to shovel this out to the market? What the hell is this? Is it a cat? Is it a rabbit? What is Klonoa? They didn't know how to market it.
It's like one of the Warner Brothers from the not Tiny, Animaniacs. That's what he reminded me of. But like a classic cartoon character.
I like his character design. Now that I'm really looking at him, he looks like kind of a cat, with big flappy extra arm, hands, ears, but whatever.
I'm so glad they didn't do that redesign. That they were like, let's make Klonoa cool. He should boogie board. It'd be awesome.
So yeah,
he should play Beyblade.
I like what you. Oh my God, don't say that. I like what you said about how a game doesn't have to be cutting edge, because that's what I really liked about it. At first, I was like, okay, well, this is pretty much standard platformer. It's not doing all these cool new wave tricks that things like Resident Evil and Final Fantasy VII are doing.
But that's the third thing that I was going to say that Klonoa did well was the presentation.
Right.
Because even though it is just a 2D platformer, it does have these little touches of 3D, and just the presentation of things is just amazing. Like, there'll be times when the camera kind of pulls back and drops low, and everything just feels so majestic.
Subtle. It's very subtle.
Even though all you're doing is running in a line, you just feel like, wow.
Yeah.
And when you bring the forest back to life, and so you go through this level that you've already beaten and it was dead and withered before, and everything is just coming to life around you, it was so beautiful and so inspired.
Everything
it's hard
about
not to love.
Everything about that game is like top notch, top quality. I mean, it's the art direction, even the fonts that they use to, bracket the beginning and end of the levels, it says Vision 3.1 or whatever. All those things are so meticulously designed. It was like everything was deliberate and was such a masterpiece. Like the music, when you unlock the music box,
was back when Namco was like the best at music. Like everything they did in that era, Ridge Racer Type 4, like Klonoa, all these games
Type
had
4, an amazing soundtrack,
just incredible music.
And everything was solid, even though the action was 2D. It was a 2D platformer, but the world scrolled by in 3D, despite the fact that the characters were actually 2D sprites. Like when you inflated an enemy and had him spinning around in your head, that was like 8 frames of 2D animation. It was really cool. It was a cool juxtaposition of 2D and 3D, and it really worked. I was just playing just to refresh my memory, I was just playing the original Klonoa off the Namco 50th Anniversary NAM Collection, which only came out
in Japan.
For PS2 in Japan. And I would just to really do a side-by-side comparison with the new one for Wii. And I was just amazed at how rock solid and perfect the controls are. The controls, there is no such thing as an accidental death in that game. If you die in Klonoa, it's because you fucked up. And
you'd say the director consciously tried to avoid doing anything Mario did, but actually the game that it reminded me of right away was Yoshi's Island, because you have that kind of hover where you can jump, and then Klonoa can flap his ears a little bit, and he does that dip, and then it'll actually give you just a little bit of lift at the very end.
Yeah.
Which is exactly like Yoshi's Island.
Well, I think what he was trying to avoid was like the
cliches,
the cliches, the things that everybody's stolen, but yeah, everything about Klonoa, the level design is unbelievable. And what's interesting about Klonoa's level design is that the consistency of that puzzle solving in the levels has been consistent throughout all of the traditional Klonoa style games in the series, like the two that came out on Game Boy Advance, Klonoa 2 on PS2.
Even the Wonder Swan game, I don't know if you played that.
No, I bought a Wonder Swan for that.
Same here.
But it was so unplayable because the screen was so blurry when the first one came out.
Yeah. It's much better on Swan Crystal. When you played on Swan Crystal, you can basically say, oh, this is where the Game Boy Advance games came from, because they are basically the same.
The director said that he would actually, I asked him, I was like, well, considering that very few people have ever played the one on Wonder Swan, would you ever consider porting that or doing a remake of that? And he said he would really like to.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. And just to mention a couple of the other Klonoa games that came out, there was a Klonoa volleyball game on PS1. It's actually very good.
It's my antidote to extreme beach volleyball DOA.
Yeah. No, that game is actually really good. And then there was Klonoa Heroes on GBA,
which I tried to like and I just couldn't.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but I did buy it and I lost it, so I need to. So, like I said, I played the original. Like I was just playing it before this podcast, but when I heard about the Wii version, I thought that the Wii version was just going to be a kind of a port with a few enhancements. I did not realize it was going to be a recreation from the ground up. So when I was looking at the original one on this NAM collection, all the cutscenes, except for the CG cutscenes, all the cutscenes are like the 2D sprites, a lot of text boxes and whatever. But everything has been redone so beautifully on the Wii. All the characters are now 3D, all the levels are 3D, everything looks, it's not, it's not high def like Xbox 360 or PS3, but it looks gorgeous. I was playing it on my 50-inch at home. Looks gorgeous. I could not believe how faithful yet beautifully imagined. Like all the little things that used to be in 2D and were sprites are now 3D and benefit from all the bells and whistles. Looks absolutely gorgeous on Wii.
Actually, you said that the 2D sprites on the 3D worked really, really well on the PlayStation version. I always had a problem with it just because the sprites were so chunky and low resolution. You couldn't really tell what was going on. But if you play the game on PS2 with the sprite smoothing on,
right,
all of a sudden, like, you can see, Klonoa's this little guy with ears. Oh, I can tell what this thing is. I can tell who that guy is.
Yeah.
It's really amazing because the sprite smoothing didn't usually work that well on PS2.
Yeah.
But on this one game, it really made a huge difference, and it also cleaned up the backgrounds. You kind of got the smoothness to the backgrounds.
I'll actually have to try that because I didn't turn on texture smoothing when I was playing through. So I'm eager to check that
actually,
out.
that's the NAMM collection kind of does that automatically.
Oh, does it?
So that's probably why it looks so good for you, because it kind of upreses everything and makes it look a little stronger. But if you play the PS1 game on PS2 with the upgrade, the upscaling or not upscaling, but the smoothing on, it does make a big difference. It goes from being like this kind of a little bit awkward game to being really, really nice.
The Wii version, in terms of the controls, and there are multiple controller options. There's you can hold the Wiimote sideways, or you can. I don't know if you can use a classic controller or not, but
I think you can.
But the nunchuck and Wiimote controls are the ones that I've been using, and I get confused a little bit sometimes. I don't know if it's just because I've got a controller in each hand and it's just a little weird for platformers. But moving with the nunchuck and then doing that new whirlwind kind of move, waving the nunchuck around to slow enemies down, is a little confusing while I'm trying to like jump. I always forget like which is jump and which is, use your little air ring thing. But I'm sure there's like a control configuration that most people can get accustomed to, but what I've noticed with the Wii version is that the precision, I mean, there in the PS1 version and this PS2 port, there is no feeling of like, I know exactly how far he's going to move when I move him. I know exactly how long the jump is going to last, and it's so precise. But in the Wii version, there's maybe 5% more looseness to the controls, and a lot of times I almost overshoot, I almost fall off a ledge.
I didn't have that problem playing with the Wii version when I played the import, but I only used the Wii remote sideways. I didn't try any of the new control options.
It might just be the.
I think it's probably just using the analog stick because by nature, an analog stick, the nunchuck, is not going to be as accurate.
I don't like using
the D-pad controls are perfect. They're spot on. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to switch back to that because I don't really like the analog because I find myself almost overshooting half the time. But yeah, the graphics are like all the cutscenes are now 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So it really, really, really felt like I was playing a brand new game, and it was just as magical. I mean, there's two voice options. There's the original Phantomillion. You play on the PS1 and you realize how low of a bit rate that those voice samples
everything
are.
Is like
Yeah, but it was almost charming because of that. It kind of had almost this.
Well, there's this the entire PS1 game. There's this level of abstraction about it that I've played the game so many times that I can't feel comfortable playing the Wii game because they've changed everything and it looks nice. But part of what I liked about the PS1 game is that it had this kind of like the polygons were so simple, but they were so clean. It had this kind of abstraction to it, this like artsiness that. Yeah. I don't know. It really made the whole thing seem like this whimsical fantasy land. Like it really felt like another world. And I don't get that so much with Klonoa 2 or with the Klonoa remake. Like you take that to a higher resolution and you lose a little bit of that charm.
Right.
Maybe that's just me.
No, I know what you're talking about. That's the same kind of feeling I had.
The sound was the same way. Like it had that kind of like staticky quality to it. It wasn't as fully resolved as it would be on Wii, but I liked that because it kind of just felt like I don't know. The game was supposed to be dreamy. It was supposed to be kind of surreal, like the Dream Kingdom, and it felt like that to me.
I know what you're saying. Like back when the Sega Saturn was still new, they came out with quite a few RPGs, like the Shining Force 3 games, and then Panzer Dragoon Saga. And I really, really appreciated the fact that those games were totally overachieving. I'd rather see an overachieving Saturn game that didn't look as good as an underachieving PS1 game, for example, right? It just had more character that way. And that was the same thing that Klonoa did. But despite the slickness of Klonoa for Wii, I'm still mesmerized by it. I haven't finished it yet. I'm reviewing it, so I'm I want to finish it before I put a score on it. But it's still, I can get past the fact that some things have been cleaned up for the next generation.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I think it's great that a game like this is available. It's no longer $50, $60 on eBay. Like you can buy it for $30, probably less on sale at Best Buy.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it's more palatable to modern tastes.
Yeah. I don't know if Klonoa
because
was
the
ahead
underlying
of its time.
the underlying game is just so good. I don't know if it was ahead of its time. I think it was maybe a little bit of ahead of its time just by not trying to be cutting edge.
I also think it was a little behind its time.
Right.
And I mean that in a good way. It was like very old school, but everybody was looking for that shiny new thing.
Right.
They wanted the new car smell, and this was very, very traditional.
Right. I feel like that's where the game really succeeded because no one was willing to create a game that was that old-fashioned. I mean, it really felt like someone had said, I want to take the games that I liked, playing on 8-bit and 16-bit systems and modernize them, but without making them, another Mario 64 clone. I want them to retain that innate, gameplay. I want them to be true to themselves, just to have this modern presentation and this modern style.
Yeah.
And they took the game in a different direction. So it was really kind of bold. It was really, and it wasn't the first game like that. I mean, there was Pandemonium, Clockwork Knight,
right,
but those weren't actually very good. This had that kind of like Namco in its prime quality to it. It was so polished. It was just so breathtaking in every way.
And you didn't really expect a platformer like this to come out of Namco.
Right.
They did other things, but this kind of game, it was not exactly their forte, which is surprising in how they've kind of mildly supported this series. It's like Klonoa has always been there, but you never feel like they put their full weight behind it. But this is if you have played the original Klonoa, whether you played it once or you played it a million times, I still recommend playing this one because I think there are some remakes that don't hold up well when you do a high res remake on them. I can't really come up with any good examples now, but when Sonic moved into 3D, for example, at long last, right back on Dreamcast, it just they were trying to do all kinds of things, but they didn't do any of them well. This is better than any Sonic game that has come out since
Sonic 2.
Yeah. And it's so good. And now that I'm looking at the package, it does support the GameCube controller. It supports the classic controller. So I'm going to have to try it with those things.
It's basically any way you want to play it, you can play it that way.
I'm really looking forward to getting to the end of this because that last level, I can't remember.
The bonus level?
The bonus level. The one with the nightmarish series of chained jumps where you have to grab an enemy, throw them so you can propel yourself higher, grab and inflate the next enemy and keep going. There's 30 of them in a row over this bottomless chasm. That was the greatest platforming challenge I had in the 32-bit era. Like you said, Klonoa starts out gentle. The learning curve is almost perfect. By the time you get to that bonus stage, you're an expert at those controls.
Yeah, I mean, to get to the bonus stage, you have to collect all the little hidden guys on the stages, and some of those require some tricky playing.
Yeah.
But the bonus stages, some of that made it into the GBA games because there are some. I don't know if you've played the GBA games all the way through, but once you get into the late levels of those and the bonus stages, you're just like, what? There are levels that to be able to finish them, you have to do those chain jumps.
Yeah.
I feel like I could actually beat the bonus level of Klonoa now because I've played through the GBA games, and those are some brutal games at the end. People brush those off as being too easy, but no, when you get to the later levels, they will break your brain.
I love the fact that I still have those cartridges because those are some really, really, really classic, unsung heroes of platforming action. But I wonder if they'll ever put those out on Virtual Console or something because those would be good.
I don't know if Nintendo's ever going to let people re-release GBA games. They haven't. They should.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things Nintendo should do.
There's
but every week we talk about things Nintendo should do with Virtual Console and they don't.
Can you imagine how many great games would be the Golden Suns? It would just be nice to not have to have those cartridges, to be able to have those on your storage or whatever you use.
Nintendo.
Yeah, but no. One thing that I don't like about Klonoa on Wii is the package. The art is fine, but what I
don't like the art.
I'm neither here nor there about the art. I mean, it's Klonoa and Hupo, but what I don't like is the logo. It's just totally that, Saturday morning cartoon kind of font. And the original Klonoa lettering, the angular, this is the Japanese one, but, I'm okay with the fact that they took Door to Phantom Mile off the subtitle, whatever.
Right, but I mean, the whole thing was the Valley of the Wind, and you had wind in the logo.
Yeah,
and they kept that for a long time. I don't know why they lost it.
Yeah, this is really generic logo design, and I think they were just going after they didn't want to threaten any of the consumers by offering them an attractive logo, so they went with this. One thing that I noticed that people have been talking about is the voice acting, the voice acting, the English voice acting for Klonoa. A lot of people hate it because they just want to go to the Phantomillion vocals, but the English vocals are actually pretty well done for the most part. It sounds like a Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon type of,
which is appropriate for the game.
Which is appropriate. So it's good. I mean, the people listening to this podcast are probably not the people who would want to listen to the English voiceover, but for a mass market audience, it's fine. But for everybody who wants to listen to the original gibberish language, it's still there. Although
I like that's there.
It also kind of loses a little bit of its charm because it's sampled, it's recorded at such a clean bit rate, So yeah,
but I think any of those issues you have to deal with, you already dealt with Klonoa 2, because this game is basically Klonoa remade with Klonoa 2's engine. I don't know if it's technically the same engine, but it's the same. It looks the same.
Yeah, except that
without the cell shading, but whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't. I actually really like Klonoa 2, but what this doesn't do, it doesn't do like those those rad little surfing.
Oh darn.
Yeah, but if you have wondered about what this Klonoa thing is all about, I would highly recommend getting this because it's a beautiful port, or rather a beautiful remake of an amazing game.
Right, and it sells for half of what the original sells for on eBay.
Yeah.
There's really, if you're listening to this and you haven't played Klonoa, please go buy the game. It's really, really good. It's the kind of game that you would enjoy if you listen to a podcast like Retronauts.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's like one of the high watermarks in platforming history, I think.
It's to me, it's easily one of the best, the 10 best PlayStation games. It's just it kind of took me a little while to realize its brilliance, but when it clicked with me, it left this incredible impression on me.
And it's lengthy, I mean, it's a substantial platforming adventure, and I think the payoff is in the bittersweet ending. I don't know if they've adjusted anything.
I doubt they have. They've been so faithful throughout the game.
Yeah.
I made it, to the midpoint of the game and in the import, and everything was the same.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how it's reinvented, because like I said, all the cutscenes and stuff have been redone in 3D, and it's I'm really looking forward to seeing that bonus level and unlocking the music box and all that stuff. And this is probably a must-have in any Wii gamer's library.
I agree. All right. Well, thanks, Milky.
You got it.
And we talked about remakes, we've talked about re-releases. Finally, we need to go on to the reimaginings. If you look at Silent Hill Shattered Memories and talk to the producer Tom Hewlett from Konami, he will tell you that it is not a remake, it is a reimagining. Ray Barnholt and I had a chance to interview Hewlett and Sam Barlow, the lead designer from Climax Entertainment, who's in charge of the game. They told us a bit about the upcoming Wii re-release, or reimagining, of the original Silent Hill. So we go to this interview between myself and Ray and Tom and Sam back about a month ago at Konami's Gamers Day. So I'm coming into this game as a novice. I don't like survival horror. Ray's coming in as someone with a lot of experience with the Silent Hill franchise.
Well, compared to him.
Well, you know the series pretty well.
Yeah.
So what does this game, this particular remake, have to offer both of us? Each of us, I suppose.
Because we've reimagined it, it has a lot to offer both of you. I'll talk about how reimagining Silent Hill, and Sam will talk about reimagining the genre itself. So we basically gone back to the original premise, Harry Mason searching for his daughter. From then on, it's totally different. So what was a really good premise to start the series off. It's a psychological horror game, and focuses more on psychological elements than dogs jumping through windows to scare you. In rewriting the story, if you've never played it before, let's say you're a Nintendo gamer, you've never owned another console, you've never seen the Silent Hill game before, you don't have to know anything to get into the story. It's brand new. It's as if you're playing the first game.
So is this kind of being targeted at the sort of like the Wii gamer who's sort of new to...
No, this is being targeted at everybody.
Okay.
And so then, if you have played Silent Hill before, you know the old story. Because we've reimagined it, we know that you know the old story. We've built in details you're not expecting. We've built in things that are going to surprise specifically you. And so when you play the game, instead of a remake where you're just buying the same exact game with prettier graphics and you know everything and you've made a conscious choice, I want to replay this game. This is something where there's almost more content for you because you've already seen what we know you've already seen, and we've changed that. But we've also reimagined the genre itself.
I mean, a really great thing about the Wii, why this game fits so perfectly on the Wii, is that we kind of looked at the survival horror genre. And as a game designer, there's one genre and you look at it and you go, whoa, that really needs some rethinking. That's kind of, it hasn't changed for a long time. And what the Wii gives you is this audience which is composed of lapsed gamers who love video games but just don't have enough time for some of the more tired conventions. They don't want to spend 20 hours backtracking in a game. You have the new gamers who have no idea what a video game is. So if you tell them this is a horror video game, what they're imagining is probably closer to what we're creating than what a traditional horror video game is. And then you do have this huge contingent of hardcore gamers. And these hardcore gamers have played Silent Hill, and they got excited about Silent Hill in the first place because it was so fresh. And so they know that if this is on Wii, it's going to be slightly different. So they know that if they come to this on the Wii, it's going to be an interesting take on Silent Hill. It's going to be fresh to them, so they can get excited about it.
Did you come into this game consciously thinking this is Silent Hill's 10th anniversary, maybe we should do something kind of spectacular to sort of mark the occasion? Or
I think it was a lucky meeting of the planets, because we had the Wii, and since the arrival of the Wii, everyone's been looking at it going, someone needs to make a flashlight horror game. And we'd done Origins, so we're talking to Konami, and we had all these great ideas of how a horror game should work on the Wii. Konami knew that it would be a great idea to revisit Silent Hill 1. And so all these opportunities kind of combined, and the more you think about it, and the more we looked into it, and the more we kind of started designing the game, just the more it made sense.
Was it originally going to be like more of a straight remake, or until someone stepped in and said, no, let's start over?
Well, first of all, at Konami, we knew we wanted to put Silent Hill on the Wii. It made too much sense. Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier tonight, the Wii remote's a flashlight. It has a speaker. I can have radio static come through it. But we'd be dumb not to put a Silent Hill in the system. We went to Climax and had this idea of reimagining the original game, or dealing with the first game for people who hadn't played it. And they had a lot of the ideas about how we would reimagine it and what that would actually mean.
Yeah, I think it was pretty clear from the start that if you were to go back to Silent Hill 1, it had to be fresh, because you'd had the movie, you'd had the original game, you might have played the original game on your PSP, PSN network. We'd done Origins, which was thematically and kind of in terms of its atmosphere was going back to that original game, and certainly with the plot elements pulled in all the characters from the original game. So it's pretty clear that if we were going to go back to something on one, we'd need to do something kind of exciting and fresh. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a driving reason to go there.
I've seen some, I don't know if it's just speculation online, that the game will be presented through multiple perspectives, multiple characters. Is there substance to that, or is that
I think that's probably an online misunderstanding of our psych profile system. In brief, Silent Hill has always been about the protagonist's psychology. The horrors he faces are directly tied to his past or something about him. And what we've done is we've taken that and put it into the gameplay directly. So Shattered Memories is watching you, the player. Every choice you make is being kept track of, and the game is altering itself based around that. So it's not so much that I'll switch from character A to character B and character C and see the same thing through their perspective. It's more, I'll see things through Tom's perspective, and if Jeremy plays, he'll see things through Jeremy's perspective.
I don't know, something about that kind of reminds me of last generation's Nintendo exclusive horror game, Eternal Darkness. Was there any inspiration there? Did you look at some of the other games in the genre? Can we do to freshen up something?
It's actually very different to what they did in Eternal Darkness. I mean, Eternal Darkness was trying to upset and unnerve a very general audience by constantly throwing things at you. And, you know, a lot of things they threw at you were party tricks, essentially. And that worked, and it was a neat feature, it was a neat USP, but to some extent it kind of compromised some of the seriousness of the game. This is a very different thing that we're talking about with the site profile. We can't talk about it in too much detail because we'll save some of these details till later. But just this idea of there being this dynamic element to the game that touches every element of the game and is directly tied to how you as a person think is very fresh and very unique.
And I want to emphasize it's not like you've played before where I come to a fork in the road and I can help the maiden or ignore the maiden and then I get locked into this good and evil path. This is nothing like that. It's based on everything that you do. It's constantly evolving.
And when you mentioned the psychology or the psych profile in your presentation, kind of the context there was that there was ice thrusting up the ground and the ground was freezing and sort of chasing after Harry. Is that something that everyone will experience, or is that something that's kind of based on the psych profile and different people will experience that differently?
Well, every Silent Hill has its nightmare world. Traditionally, it's been this rusty, dark, red world, and that was kind of assumed to be the nightmare world. But Silent Hill 2 actually featured multiple characters, and each person was experiencing their own nightmare. And so that's something we really wanted to explore and say, you know, it doesn't have to be this rusty firework. It can be something else. And so Sam can speak on why we chose ice, but every player will experience this icy world, which we've chosen for a reason.
What was the impetus in saying ice?
So the ice thing, I mean, I have to be careful here because the ice ties directly into some of the kind of themes of the game, and as you play through the game, you'll come to understand what the ice represents. But at the same time, there are some other funky things, like in the original game, something that a lot of people forget is that it was snowing. And the characters observe that it's snowing at the wrong time of year. And so there's this freak element, this kind of freak weather that's come into the town. And we really liked that, we wanted to build on that. And when you have the Wii controls and the camera is down in the action, having snow falling is a beautiful thing, casting shadows off the snowflakes. So the snow thing kind of made sense. And then this idea of, well, why is the town deserted? Well, there's this freak weather happening. Things start to kind of make sense and this sort of builds. And then obviously the ice world, our kind of nightmare world, is taking that to a real extreme. I probably shouldn't say too much about it.
I mean, you think about if you're standing in the snow, there's that eerie calm where you realize there's no sound at all. You feel very isolated, and that works very well into a nightmare world where we're focusing on survival and survival horror. We're not focusing on the action horror. You don't have a gun. You're not empowered. You should feel very helpless and alone. And so that really ties into the ice.
So you said it's a reimagining, everything is different and all of that. And it's like, but will some of the main story points that were in the original game sort of still, in a way, carry over and make sense in the grand scheme of the series, especially with like the connections to Silent Hill 3 that the original had?
I think I'll go back to what I said, isn't it? we know you've played those games before. We're not just, Konami didn't hand Climax Silent Hill 1 and go to town, and then Climax didn't just go through and go, no, we don't like this, we don't like that, we'll kick this, we'll change this. Yeah. It's a very calculated thing. When we reimagine this, much like Battlestar Galactica, we knew what we were doing. We changed things on purpose, we left certain things the same on purpose. Obviously can't tell you what, but...
I mean, Tom uses Battlestar Galactica. I always use Cronenberg's The Fly as my example. People don't look at Cronenberg's The Fly and say, hey, that's a remake. I prefer the original. Yeah. I mean, some people do. And that original was a strong piece in its own right. But then when Cronenberg came along, he took the elements he liked, but he kind of reacted to it, and it became a very personal work for him. And that work stands alone, and that's absolutely true of this.
How involved has the Japanese side of the company been in this? Like Akira Yamaoka, I know, is doing the music, but does he have any involvement with the reimagining you're doing to the story? Is there any concern with continuity, or have you been given sort of free reign?
Akira is involved directly in the music, and I do want to say he is making all new music for the game. He's not just sending us the old files.
Nothing inspired even?
Well, he's reimagining along with us, of course. As for the plot elements, we have run some of them by him, and they've shocked him, so we must be on the right track. But as far as consulting with Japanese staff...
At the start of the project, we spoke with all the original members who are still at Konami, a couple who aren't, discussed what their original hopes were for Silent Hill 1, clarified some plot details that are kind of contentious or vague, and that kind of allowed us to come away with the confidence to reimagine that and kind of get in touch with where they were thinking, almost 10 years ago. So we've gone back to some of the original sources that inspired them, watched a lot of Hitchcock, a lot of David Lynch, and come up with something which is definitely fresh, but is sort of true to that original inspiration.
Will you be pulling any, inspirations, mechanical elements, anything from other games in the series? Or are you also kind of looking outside the series for inspirations, like the phone numbers on the billboards? First thing I thought of was, Snatcher. Can we expect to see a lot of those sort of things?
I think things like that, more than inspiration from other games, is just the adventure genre. Survival horror games kind of started off as adventure games with action, and then I was exploring an environment which happened to be scary, and I was doing puzzles, and then I had combat. And in reimagining what survival horror could be, if I'm exploring an environment directly, it makes sense to have certain elements that adventure games have, because I'm in this environment, I'm looking around, I'm trying to figure out what in my surroundings can I use, what's useful to me.
Have you drawn inspiration from the later games in the series, more than just Silent Hill?
Yeah, I think this is a reimagining of the series, as well as just the first time. So we know all the other games inside out. We've worked on some of them. For me, working on Silent Hill Origins, that was an exercise in textbook survival horror. And obviously, we were revisiting the storyline of the first game there. We were recreating the atmosphere of that game. It was also interesting because we were going up against the technical challenges of working on PSP and working on handheld, things that people said would never work with a horror game. And you obviously have some of those same things with the Wii. People say, it's not the kind of console that a horror game belongs on. Can you really get a horror game to work with these kind of Wii controls? And I think we're going to do the same thing we did with the PSP stuff, where when people see what we're doing graphically, what we're doing gameplay-wise, they're going to be blown away. But this definitely takes things to the next level beyond what we did there.
And that about wraps it up for this week. This episode. I don't really know what we're doing next time, so check us out on the web at our blog, Retronauts blog, oneup.com. Click the blogs button at the top of the page. I can never remember the URL, but it's awesome. You'll love it. Look for us on Twitter, Retronauts. We're easy to find. We're everywhere. We're talking about old stuff. And until next week, or maybe the week after, that's it for us.
History and the paranormal to the UFO phenomenon. Join us in taking an alternative look into the universe around us. On this week's episode, we covered giants in North America, a classic abduction account, and remote viewing and some of its off-planet targets. All that and more coming up on episode 50 of Mysterious Universe. Stay with us. Thanks for tuning in to the Mysterious Universe podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin Grundy, and you're listening to episode 50 of the show this week. We've hit a half century. It's good to get the 50 episodes under my belt, and looking forward to 50 more. I've got lots of free time now to work on the show, which has been fantastic, but it hasn't really changed anything. Everything just still kind of came together in the last few minutes for this episode, because before I sit down to record, I usually just do one last search for stories, before I get the microphone out. And this week was exactly the same. I just found all this great stuff at the last minute, and one local story for me, which is very local actually. Just a few things I wanted to mention with the site before I jumped into those articles. I put a new podcast icon in the top right-hand sidebar there. That was couldn't find the episode on the site, which is a pretty good complaint, I guess, because so much new content's going up there. So the podcast episode was going up and then just getting pushed down with all the articles that are being put on the website. So thanks for that feedback. If you click on the podcast icon now, it'll take you to the podcast directory, which you could do before by clicking on the podcast category. It just wasn't very prominent. And the other thing we did was add an RSS page where you can get the feed for just the articles on the site. So there's two feeds. There's one for the podcast, which is just your MP3 files, and there's the other feed which will get you all the articles that go up on the site, because I know a lot of you will use newsreaders to read the website. Now, if you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. Just head over to mysteriousuniverse.org and you can see the new website. Take a look at the articles. Chernivog's had another great week. There's been tons of stories going up. It's been an average 4 or 5 stories a day for the last week. So lots of stuff to read. Now, getting onto those stories I found at the last minute, this one is local, and I mean really local. This is a UFO sighting. This happened a few streets away from my house in Borkham Hills. I got it from the ozfiles.blogspot.com, and it's Bill Chalker's blog, who's a prominent Australian UFO researcher. And this just happened on January the 7th in Borkham Hills, where a security guard at a factory around here captured a UFO on his camera, and there's photos on the site of the object. And the security guard, James, has had 31 years experience in security work and had been working at this factory site for a number of years. And this all happened at 7:40 p.m. local time, where he was standing outside his security office, got a glimpse of what he describes as a long black thing in the sky just above the power lines. He jumped back into his office to grab his camera, which is just a cheap kind of 3.3 megapixel camera, and he snapped a few shots. He says the object seemed to have a grey halo or cloud around it, and it seemed to be moving towards his position. He could see that there appeared to be a cloudy light inside the halo moving from end to end across the top surface of the shape. And this is interesting. He got the impression that there was like a heat haze or a shimmering effect around it. And if you remember back to the Chicago Airport O'Hare UFO sighting, one of the witnesses that came forward described exactly the same thing, a kind of heat haze around the object. Now, actually, he only got a chance to take one photo before the object went into reverse, decreased in size, and was gone in about 3 seconds. And then James sent the info to some UFO sites in Australia, who then passed the info on to Bill. So not a spectacular sighting, it's a run-of-the-mill UFO sighting, but I was just so surprised. It's literally 5 minutes walk from my house that this happened. So I understand why I get excited emails from some of you when there's a story that happens close by. I get tons of emails like, oh, that just happened in my town, or that story you covered was just happened a few miles away. It's kind of cool when something paranormal happens just around the corner. I'll put links up to that story in the show notes, of course. It's at theoddsfiles.blogspot.com, and you can take a look at the image.